Hello, everybody. How we doing? Good. I'm just gonna go collective good. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. I don't know if did that help or did that make it worse? Can you see like the
I'm,
Animal Rescue League?
yes. I'm seeing the like speaker view.
All right, that ain't what we want, right? Let's go with, oh, it's still showing speaker view. I don't
I
know
mean,
why
it's
that's,
nice. Yeah. We can still see it either way.
no, that definitely is not it. All right, well, we'll just go with that way.
Okay.
And I don't want to duplicate that, sorry. There we go. Boom. I feel like we got her. Sorry. Can you see it okay?
Yeah, looks good.
All right. My name is Josh. I'm with the Animal Rescue League of Iowa. I'm the Pet Support Services manager. So I oversee kind of all of the things that our rescue league does for the community-owned animals to try to keep them happy, healthy, families together. And we provide things like pet food, vaccine clinics, veterinary assistance, spay and neuter services. We have a TNR department. And so we do a lot of things that try to, like I said, keep families and pets together. But then one of the programs that I'm on here to chat about was one thing that I really worked hard on trying to revamp once I got on board, and that's our crisis foster program. So we called it crisis foster, but it really was just like an emergency boarding. Like if somebody was going through some sort of crisis, like domestic violence was usually one of them, and natural disasters were kind of our two criteria that allowed them to come in. And we just really brought them into the shelter, and we just kept them here for really about 2 weeks time, which we all know if people are going through some sort of crisis, that's not usually the 2 week time frame is not usually the easiest way to get through that crisis. And so I was fortunate enough to take a apprenticeship offered by Siska. I think it's SISCA. They're, I believe, out of the Cleveland area, and I was a part of their second cohort of program. So they basically took us through their program. They called it Safe Pet, which is, there's many different names, for it. We actually changed our name as a result of going through this program to crisis care to better reflect what we're able to do, because we had people reach out to us just because of the foster aspect. They thought we would just take it in and immediately go to foster care, which is not really the case. So through that apprenticeship, we got to really dig in deep into what their program was, how it worked, how to fund it, and just all sorts of good things that really allowed us to better understand, better to work from there. So one of the first things that we did, that we got to learn about, is just basically the request form and how to format that. So in the past, all we did is we would get phone calls or emails, or people just showing up requesting help for it. We had no formalized way of tracking it. We had no kind of paperwork, online forms to track it. So we didn't really gauge, one, how many people this was really going to be of use or need for, what the reasons were, really anything about the situation, whether they even lived in the Des Moines area or not. So that was really our first step that really allowed us to gauge the need. I think we put it up, I think mid-October, and by the end of the year, we were already up to 50 requests for it. So I mean, very quickly realized that there was a big need out there, and we made it online and put it right on our website. So that way, anytime that somebody called, emailed, or really stop by, or like, hey, this is your first step, is to go to our website, fill out a request form, so that way we can at least gauge and get the interest, and the basic information from them. So that was a big one, that just, again, aha moment, just as simple as creating a request form, changed the way that we were starting to handle this program. The second piece of that was really a behavior form. Historically, our organization only would collect behavior information if they were actually coming in to surrender the animal to us. It was never really talked about, in this program before. We never really had it. We had it internally in our shelter management system, Shelter Buddy. It was never a public facing thing. So then, excuse me, rework that to basically make it so that way I could send a link to somebody and people could fill it out on their own, behavior information around either their cat or their dog. So that allows us from a foster perspective, from a behavior department perspective, to figure out, what things we need to dig into and what we would want to share with the foster system. So that was a really big piece that we created and got situated. The third party communication was another big one that I'm really excited about, because it really helps us better set the expectation between us and like the third party that's trying to help that person through the crisis. So like the domestic violence shelter, the hospital, the behavior department, the rehab place, the nursing home, wherever that kind of third party of the human, where they're at, it allows us to better just kind of set expectations between us and them to make sure that we're all on the same page with like what information we need from them and vice versa, because they're really the expert at handling the crisis and helping getting the human through that. And then we're obviously the animal side of it, but that really allows us to really work on both ends of the leash and really help us better determine, how we can help both the human and the pet. The last thing that the apprenticeship really allowed us to do and not have to, or two last things, excuse me, that not allowed us to reinvent the wheel is the contract and the foster addendum. Both of those things we basically copied and pasted, made some minor tweaks and things like that to really help us get this program off the ground is really a solid contract. And then we had the fosters sign an addendum to their original agreement just to kind of incorporate the communication, making sure that they don't alter the appearance and just incorporate for things that they wouldn't otherwise have to think about into when they're in their care versus a shelter animal versus a crisis care animal. So all of those things were again things that I made some tweaks to, but didn't have to like start from scratch, which was just tremendously helpful from that apprenticeship. So if any of you guys are interested in those forms, I'd be happy to send you what I got to help, so that way you're not starting from scratch, because I know that night and day made a difference in our program. And so really what from that apprenticeship outside the paperwork, we are able to now incorporate fosters into this. We have a women's correctional facility program where they've historically have taken in behavior dogs, medical dogs to help get them out of the shelter. We've now incorporated our crisis care dogs in there, the particular ones that our behaviorist feels like they'd be a good fit out there. And that allowed us to again expand out the criteria. So now we're working with people that are having housing issues, that are going into the hospital or rehab treatment. Military leave is another one that we've added in there. And then obviously we kept the domestic violence and natural disasters. So it really just gave us a chance to expand who we're able to help, how we're able to help, and take this program really to the next level. So that was, I put this slide together basically about a month ago to talk to Maddie's like on a national call on there. And then since that call, we've actually started to really implement this. So I have some big learnings that I took away from like really after having a month to really work with it. So I'll go through that, and then I'll just obviously open it up for any questions or anything that you guys want to talk about. So the biggest things that now that we're actually rubber hits the road, we were waiting on the contract, sent out the message to the fosters and got a list of people. I think out of the 400 some fosters in our database, I think about 40 of them raised their hand, said, yep, I'd be happy to help out with a program like this. So after we started doing that, got the contract ready to roll, we really open it up to start working with more people. So one of the things that I really realized very quickly on is we needed to map out from start to finish what bringing in a animal from crisis, in the crisis care program, to really what that's going to be from start to finish, all the way from the request form to filling out the end paperwork and entering in our costs for it. So really doing that for a couple of reasons. One, so it just has a repeatable system, right? So anytime you can systematize and automate anything, we want to do it, make sure it's the same experience each time, make sure everybody is on the same page, because there's a lot of things that we're different in our other crisis foster program that are going to be different in here. So we wanted to really make sure that we had a repeatable system. With that, really making sure that there's good communication and buy-in from each department. That was big. Our medical team needs to know, what to do when they get these animals. Our foster needs to know when to send out the communication to our intake staff needs to know how to bring them from here to there on there. So I think that was a really big key. Just good communication and good buy-in from each department. And then this was another big kind of critical step that I thought was lacking before, was a really robust tracking system. Historically we track stuff on spreadsheets and email and our shelter management system, but really creating something that allows it to be pretty much as you can in one place, or at least one place where you can easily access all of the information that you would need to kind of manage this program. That was a really big one. So I've started creating that and gotten feedback and stuff from each department, so that way we can all really make sure that we're on the same page. And the last thing I definitely have learned through this, because I'm used to having the idea and then immediately being able to implement it, is really just the patience, really figuring out that things are going to be up and down. They're going to be bumps in the road, and you just got to be patient and provide myself and the team grace while we're learning this. But at the end of the day, with the mission in mind of that we're being able to help a lot of people and pets that otherwise wouldn't be able to get help. And again, at the end of the day, are going through some sort of pretty big crisis, and all we have to do is take care of their animal, while they're figuring their stuff out, which I think is a pretty good blessing and honor. So that's that's the short version of the program. It's something that, like I said, I'm incredibly excited that we're really getting off the ground and getting the opportunity to help people. And with that, I'll stop sharing and just open up to questions or the next person. Bobby, I can speak to one of your questions there real quick, if that's okay. One, we haven't really had anybody completely just drop off communication. It's more than anything, it's ones that haven't made progress along the way, right? They're no closer to finding a new place. They're no closer to getting more out of the hospital than they were when they first started. And so it seems like those are the ones that are like, all right, it's probably best that we find a new home for your animal, right? And a lot of them have agreed to that. We also, in our new revamp, we did our program just a little bit different to kind of help maybe address the question about any lawsuits. We actually have the owners surrender their animal to the Animal Rescue League in order to participate in the program. And I try to very clearly explain why we do that, for medical reasons, for their protection. So if something does happen to, there's a bite during the foster, they're not liable for it. And then to cover really the last part of it is if they're not communicating, if they're making no progress, closer to their goal, then we typically will then move them through our process. So we haven't had that happen yet in our grand infancy of this program, but that's why we have them surrender them right away, to us. So and then the last thing, I see one other question. Yes, we do supply them with food and supplies. So any foster that wants food and supplies through our pet support services, we have plenty of them. We're giving them away to anybody that really needs them. So we'll definitely give them to our fosters as well.
Let's see. How are you recruiting fosters for this program? And is your goal to expand and utilize your existing foster base or create a separate group? How are you all doing it?
I threw my answer in the chat, but I'll just quickly explain it. We use our current foster base. We got a pretty decent response, so we're going to work with them. If we have if we're starting to run into issues where we don't have enough fosters to handle the workload, or if like the ones that we're seeing are just not willing to take animals when we need them, then we'll start recruiting out for some more, I'm sure. Like, especially as we grow the program, we can share more about the program. Right now, we're kind of keeping a lid on it just to filter people through that are immediate needs. And then as we start to promote and expand the program, then I'm sure more fosters will come in through that.